Hello and welcome to this video on how to set up a Turnitin assignment. And we're going to be using a shell that or a course that I've been in the process of building. It's English 110.18. So there's two things we're going to do in this video. Show how to create a Turnitin assignment and also how to import a rubric. So that's what's happening in this video. So for giggles, let's go back to this. First thing we want to do when we make any changes in Moodle is turn the editing on. Ta-da! Okay, so now that we've turned editing on, we can now add stuff. So let's say I want to add a Turnitin assignment to this week over here, September 11th. And it will jump down to September 11th. Okay, so I want to add it to this week right here. Okay, so once I've turned editing on, then I can go over here to add an activity. Add an activity. And it's Turnitin assignment 2. Now, I don't know why it says 2. I don't know if that's the sequel, the revenge. I don't know what the deal is. This time it's personal. But anyway, this is what we got. So we're using Turnitin assignment 2. So then we click on that, and it'll open up the assignment. Now, first thing I'm going to do is give it a title. This is writing. Oh, I can almost spell. Writing Project 1 Final Draft. Now, if you want to leave any instructions for the students about this, then you can put it here. Now, I'm just going to copy and paste what I've done from a different class. These are my particular notes that I use, that I give for all my students. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this because we're just showing you how to create a Turnitin assignment. Now, if you leave notes here, you need to click this little box. Because if you don't, then it won't show up on the web page. It won't show up on the main page. Okay. Now, here is where you decide how you want to do submissions. Now, I personally have them submit files. Okay, so they have the option of either just writing it in, turn it in. They can just do a text submission, or you could force them to upload a file. I want them to send me a file, so I force them to send me a file upload. Okay, and it's only one part. Again, you can change that as you see fit. That's the way I do it. Now it says allow submission of any file type. I just leave that as no, because I have them submit, if you'll notice up here, my directions, submit the final draft of Writing Project 1 as a doc or a docx file. That's something that I've explained to the students in advance. So I don't want them to be able to submit any kind of file. So that's just the thing. Now, this is so the originality report for students. Turnitin does a plagiarism check, which we'll get to more in just a second. So this will allow you to say, okay, do you want them to see when they submit it, does it show them how much of their paper is plagiarized? That's up to you. I personally put no because I've taught them what plagiarism is. I've shown them how not to plagiarize. And this is the final draft, for heaven's sakes. So they should have figured it out by then. So it's, once you turn it in, you turn it in. And that's what I basically say. You need to have everything as perfect as can be for the final draft. So I just keep that as no. Now, for the grade display, you can either show a fraction. So when you set up your grading, you can do however many points it's worth. 20 points, 50 points, 100 points. So this would be just a fraction. So let's say your assignment's only worth 50 points, then they earn a 45 out of the 50. Personally, I change this over to a percentage because students then can realize, okay, so even if the paper was only worth 50 points, they still can see this as like what kind of grade they earned. So in the past, I've had 50 points and someone got a 45. They're like, oh, I can't believe I got a 45 on the paper. That's so bad. I'm like, no, it's really not because it was 45 out of 50. But if I just change this to percentage, then that eliminates that. Okay. The auto refresh grade scores, yeah, I just leave that as well. I'll leave that as the way it is. Okay, next is the grade. So it's kind of like, see how it's kind of like hidden? You got to click on this little button over here to open that up. Okay. Again, I would, depending on how you have your grade book set up, for me, everything's done with a point system, and the maximum grade for this, I always keep my final papers as 100 just to make it easier for me. Okay, but the important thing here is that now, again, if you're watching this for Shaw, a previous video showed you how to set up your grade book. And you should do that before you start creating any assignments, because when you get to the grade thing, you need to categorize it. You have to say, okay, once this is graded, where is it going to go? Okay, and, well, see, I just copied this over and it didn't copy over the grades. Well, that's not categories. That's not good. Boo! Well, anyway, but once your grades are set up, your categories are set up, then you could say, okay, so this could go under Writing Project 1, okay, because that's where these points are going to go. So that's a problem with this video. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and pause this and fix that to show you what it's going to look like. So hold on a second. Okay, and I'm back. So I went in and created some categories just so you can see what it looks like. So now, under the grade, again, this is a writing project 1, so I would go, where do I want to put this? Well, I want to put this and do the weighted area of writing project 1. So this would be all my different categories. I just created a few just so I could see there were some. So I'd say writing project 1. So now when it's done grading, it'll go to that section of the gradebook. That's important. That's where you set this up. That's where you sign this. It'll save you a lot of grief later on by just having that. Again, you want to set up your grade categories first before you start creating assignments because it'll just make your life a lot easier. Now, there is, again, up here you can change how many parts you want for a particular assignment. I always just have one part, but this is a little confusing for some students when they say part 1. So what I just do is I just, to make it easier for them, because they're like, part 1, does that mean there's a second part? What do I do? I don't know. So I just go ahead and I just change that. Yeah, I just copy the same thing. Okay, now this shows the due date. So you have like the start date, the post date. I'll be honest, I don't know what start date means and post date really does, but the due date does matter. So let's say this is going to be due on September the 30th, 2017, and then this is the time over here. Now I change personally. Everything is due by 11. So this is military time, 11 p.m. and I change it over to 55. Now, if I remember correctly, there's some things on Moodle that only do it in increments of 5 minutes. So I try to keep everything consistent, so I just set it at 55. Again, maybe they fixed it with the new update. I don't know, but I just leave it at 55. Okay. Now, under Originality Report Options, this is where you can allow students to, as far as turning late work. So if your personal policy is no late work, then you would say allow submissions after the due date. The answer would be no. It means that it won't even accept stuff. Personally, I have a 25% off each day that it was late, off the max possible. So I say yes, they can submit late work, although they will get docked. Again, that's up to you personally, but that's how you fix that. Report generation speed, I just leave that alone. Yes, store the students because we want to be able to, be able to check those for plagiarism later on. And then this is the plagiarism stuff, okay? This is where you kind of set, you want to check your students against the stored papers, against the internet, against journals. Okay, so this allows you to figure out what you're going to compare their paper to see if there is plagiarism. And it gives you some options like you want to exclude the bibliography or the quoted material to make sure that's not showing up in the plagiarism. So that's just, something that I would, again, your personal preference, okay? Under grade mark options, this is a bit of the, there's two really important things here. Okay, first of all, we'll get to the rubric in a second, because that's the second part of this video. But this is huge. Enable the e-reader grammar check. It says no. Well, why would I want to do that? Well, check yes, for heaven's sakes. Because what this does is that once they've submitted their paper, there's an option here, and I'm going to check it, this is for college, change that to advanced, and I'm going to use the English dictionary as opposed to the UK. And I'm going to have to check for spelling, grammar, usage, mechanics, and style. Now, this is not perfect, but it does help, and it will actually show them what they have done wrong in these different categories. It's still in beta, if I remember correctly. But the idea is that once you pull up their paper and you've turned this on, it already has a bunch of stuff already marked that is grammatically incorrect. And then you can go through and accept or not whether it's actually correct. But this will save you so much time so you can focus more on the other aspects of the paper. So make sure that is yes. Again, if you're in college, I suggest advanced, and then you can choose the things that you want. Again, we'll go back to rubrics in a second. The rest of these things, the module settings, the restrict access, the tags, and the competencies, I just leave those alone. I don't even mess with those. Those are more advanced features that I don't particularly use. Now comes time for the rubric. Okay, so the rubric here is basically you can set it up, and let's go ahead and take a look at the rubric manager. Launch the rubric manager. Now, if you've already created a rubric that you want to use for this assignment, you can just do that. Now, you can create your own rubrics, okay, from scratch, which this video will not show, okay, or you can use one you've already created, or if you're brand new and you have one from a different class, or another professor says, hey, I have the rubric, or the school has said, listen, we need you to use a particular rubric, then they've got this little feature over here called View Import and Export Options. You can either import, so let's say you set up a rubric that you want to share with other people, you can export that rubric and give it to other people. Or you could import one that's already been shared for you. So for giggles, for Shaw University, in our little sharing area, our little shell, we have created a rubric for Writing Project 1. So I would click on this. So this just downloads the rubric that's already been created. Okay, all right, here we go. So then when I go back to my one that I'm working on, I'm going to import that rubric, and I'm just going to drag and drop it up there. Boop, and it's been completed. It's imported. Yay! So I have imported that rubric, so I don't have to create a rubric over and over and over and over and over again. Why you want to collaborate with other people. Now, to actually attach the rubric to this assignment, then you would choose, so it just basically gives you this warning message. Okay, well, we haven't graded any papers, so I'm not worried about that. We'll just hit OK. So now I'm going to show. Now, these are all the rubrics that I have. Good, googly moogly. Okay, but this is the one that I just imported. Okay, right here. So then that would be the one that I want to attach. Writing Project 1 for English 110, Fall 2017. This one is now attached to this paper. That should be all I need, and then I'm going to save and return to course. And this, don't you give me an error message. Don't you do it. Okay, very good. So now there is that assignment. Okay, so there it is. And again, this information right here, that's the stuff that I put in. So let's go back and review real quick. So we'll go back to Edit Settings. So if you want to make changes, you just click on Edit and go back to Edit Settings. And it'll pull it up again. So again, that information that I highlighted just a second ago is found right here. Okay, go away, HTML. Come on. Come on. We know you're cool. Yes, all your little fancy script there that makes it look neat. It'll pop up in just a second. But again, if you type stuff in here and it's not showing up on the other page, it's because you haven't clicked that little button. You need to make sure that button is clicked. You can't see it on the screen. That this is still loading. This will change here in just a second. But again, the key points that you want to do when you're making this are make sure that you set the due date. Okay, that's important. For the grade, oh, it's still loading. I can't even change it. For the grade, you want to make sure. Well, I'm going to pause this until it loads. All right, now, see, there it is. Look, it looks nice. Okay. So again, the key points, make sure that's this button's clicked if you have any information here that you want them to see. Under the grade, you want to make sure that you put it in the correct grade category, which you've set up in advance. Under the assignment, make sure that the due date is correct. Okay. Under the originality reports, again, this is where you set it, whether you allow late work or not. Okay. Under grade mark options, that's where you put in your rubric. Again, you can create a rubric, you can import a rubric, or you can use a rubric that you've already done. And then the big thing is make sure you turn your E-Rater grammar checker thing on, and then you can select all these things. And why did these become unchecked? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? And then save. Okay. So now you have set up that assignment. That's how you do it. Turn it in with the rubric and ETS, and yeah, this page isn't working. Man, it must be like hot outside or something, or just maybe it's summertime and the computer wants to take a day off. Anyway, but that's how you do it. So, yay, now go forth and conquer.